relatively new phenomenon. But it only goes for the term human rights defender. In practice, nothing has changed so much, and nothing is really new here. You may know that Amnesty International will pass its 50th anniversary this year. I say pass, and I don't say celebrate, since there's nothing joyful about the reason why Amnesty was founded 50 years ago. But Amnesty was founded out of hope. The human rights defenders of 50 years ago were those who provided that hope to the world. Of course, they went under different names then. They were called dissidents, or advocates of free speech, or activists, or victims, or communists, or liberals. If you yourself were not around 50 years ago, you may have heard of some of them. And I'll quote you some of the names that in 1961 were brought to international attention by Peter Benenson, the founder of Amnesty International. Names such as Cardinal Vincenti from Hungary. You may know, for many years, his movements were restricted to the premises of the American Embassy in Budapest. There was Agostinho Neto, the Angolan freedom fighter, who later became the first president of his country. Some of you may remember Hu Feng, a high-placed Chinese communist who opposed the censorship of Chairman Mao. You may not have heard of Olga Ivinskaya, but you probably have seen her as Laura in Dr. Chicago. Olga was the longtime lover of the Soviet novel laureate Boris Pasternak. You will not have heard of Ashton Jones, but you do know the man who admired Jones so much, because that man's name is Martin Luther King. And you won't know Patrick Duncan, probably, but you know his co-worker, who was Nelson Mandela. Now, 50 years later, we are in a different world. We don't fight the injustices of the Cold War anymore. We fight cruelties of many governments who label themselves democratic. We don't have to stand up for a cardinal of Hungary, but there's every reason to defend the human rights of women in Congo, or reporters in Russia, or civilians in the war zones of Colombia. One other thing that has changed over the last 50 years is the medium that carries the message. There are very few moving images of human rights defenders of the 1960s. There are none of the earliest days of Amnesty International, but there are many from the present. And that is why we have such impressive films here on Aung San Suu Kyi from Burma, Marco Arana Segaga from Peru, Amilet Del Carmen Cavadilla from Nicaragua, Fatou Mandiang Diatta from Senegal, Bismuguru from Kenya, and Hildebach from Sweden, Ayat Moraz from Palestine, Suciwati Munir from Indonesia, Andrei Nekrasov from Russia, Alice Dugon from Cameroon, and Palagumi Sainath from India. A lot of names in these, but on purpose, because what Amnesty is essential, an essential characteristic of Amnesty International is that we are putting persons in front, that we're putting persons central. We started naming names in 1961, when we took up the first adoption cases of prisoners of conscience. And in the early 1970s, we started our worldwide network of urgent actions to save people from torture cells, or death row, or an impending massacre. And we are still giving full attention to names now. One example, we are campaigning for Walid Yunis Ahmed in Iraq, who has already been detained without trial for 11 years. You will find names also in our very recent reports on people who have been killed in politically motivated communal and sectarian violence, the head of presidential and parliamentary polls in Algeria, and what we say about Roma and Slovenia. In our reporting on Tunisia, Egypt, Libya, Bahrain, Yemen, and other areas of violence and hope in the Middle East now. In 50 years, we have come a long way in defending human rights defenders. Already in July 1966, Amnesty International campaigns on the conditions of arrest and imprisonment of named citizen activists in Aden, then a British colony. In 1972, the organization started its campaign to abolish torture, focused but not restricted solely to political prisoners who were sometimes well known. In 1977, the organization's conference on the abolition of the death penalty adopted a policy to campaign for named individuals on death row, who included human rights defenders executed for political reasons. The later case of Ken Saro-Wiwa, hanged in Nigeria in 1995, brings to mind. In 1982, the Dutch section of Amnesty Netherlands, hosted a conference on political killings and disappearances. And already at that time, we have been documenting the names of people killed in the wholesome massacres in Indonesia and in Uganda. We proceeded to widen our mission so as to include gay rights, violence against women, economic and social rights, and migrants. We work for and with human rights defenders in all those areas. And that is the reason why Amnesty sponsored this program in the film festival in Adelaide. It is this working for and with actually that I would like to stress as my message in this short introduction. You may wonder, and I know many people outside this room wonder, what is the meaning of human rights in our present day? What can we contribute to the rule of law in the Middle East or Asia if everything is just so dominated by the great powers, if it seems all to turn on the decisions of just a few heads of states or chief executives? I'd like to tell you one significant characteristic of Amnesty International. Long before the upheavals in Tunisia, Egypt, Libya broke out, we have not only been documenting abuses, we have also been working with local human rights defenders for a very long time. We have been there for many years already, and just days after the governments had toppled, we were there to help with work on a sustainable human rights climate and a sustainable human rights agenda. We had our proposals ready for constitutional guarantees and a better prison regime. We went to the local human rights offices for assistance, documentation, legal aid, and human rights education. Ladies and gentlemen, it is a great honor for me to be speaking to you, to an audience that includes so many of the brave and the bold in the world. You work on obtaining justice for a husband who was murdered, and on improving the plight of poor peasants, on uncensored journalism, on protection from genital mutilation, and on much more. We together are the widespread and most encompassing movement in the world. As I said, I don't think that's a cause for a celebration, since there are so many needs still unfulfilled. But certainly it's a cause for a memorable night and a memorable program at this festival. And at the end of this short introduction, it is an honor for me to invite Messina Gilani to come forward. And Messina Gilani, to come forward. She was already introduced by Astrid Roostum, former special representative of the United Nations Secretary General of Human Rights Defenders. She is lawyer in Pakistan now. We have the opportunity of getting to know each other a little bit. Yesterday I was impressed with getting that from San Francisco and from Canada, and so she was very vivid and very keen on speaking on human rights and on development all over the world. It's an honor for me to present this book, Matter of Fact, where a lot of human rights defenders of this year are pictured and portrayed, to present this to you, and I hope this book will remember you in the work you did and of this festival in the end. Thank you very much.